It is 7 o'clock on Monday, December 18th, and we'll call this meeting of the Sault Ste. Marie City Commission to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Gary.
Here.
Commissioner Bauer.
Here.
Commissioner Bospis Rath.
Here.
Commissioner Gage.
Here.
Commissioner Habusta.
Here.
Commissioner Marble.
Here.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Here.
Everybody's in attendance. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And as my Christmas gift to you, I have no comments this evening.
Thank you. Best gift ever.
All right, so we will move on into proclamations and recognitions. City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight we want to introduce Trent Collins as our newest firefighter paramedic. We're going to hand it off to Chief Miller to do the introduction.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chief.
Mayor, Commissioners, tonight I'm happy to present to you Trent Collins, our newest employee for the fire department. We had a vacancy occur when Rachel Vlad took out their opportunity at another fire department. So we hated to see her go, but we did get a great candidate to fill that vacancy. Trent is a graduate of Lake Superior State University, again, keeping that tie with the university. And he comes with experience from Sioux Township while he was in town, Traverse City Fire, Sheboygan EMS, and now he's here back to work with us. And he is a new resident of the city. He has already purchased a residence in the city. So, you know, he's definitely wants to keep his roots here, and we're very happy to have him with the fire department. We look forward to a long career with him. So, Trent Collins. Would you like to say anything while you're at it?
I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to work here in the city. Thank the fire department for hiring me on. It's been a goal of mine for the last few years to get on the department. I'm excited to be part of the department and part of the city and see where life takes me from here. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Trent, to the city of Sault Ste. Marie. We will move on into item C, which is public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to schedule any time to speak on any of our agenda items? Seeing none, we'll move into item D, which is the consent agenda. Deputy City Manager Troyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the consent agenda, 1, approval of the City Commission meeting minutes of December 4th, 2023. Item 2 is approval of the City Commission corrected meeting minutes of November 20th. Item 3 is acceptance of the Economic Development Corporation meeting minutes of November 28th. Item 4 is acceptance of the Economic Development Corporation, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, and Tax Increment Finance Authority 3 meeting minutes of November 14th. Item 5 is acceptance of the Local Officers Compensation Commission meeting minutes of December 4th. Item 6 is the acceptance of the Police and Fire Pension Board meeting minutes of October 12th and November 15th. Item 7 is reappointment and appointment to the Tax Board of Review. Item 8 is consideration of 2024 part-time seasonal wage schedule. Item 9 is consideration of award a bid for structural firefighting protective gear. Item 10 is consideration of Second Amendment to Operation and Lease Agreement with American Tower LLC. Item 11 is consideration of fiscal year 23-24 budget amendment for the Economic Development Corporation. Item 12 is consideration of a request for the city to collect the 2024 summer property taxes for the Sioux Area Public Schools. And item 13 is approval of the consent agenda items as presented.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager. Would any commissioner like any of those items further explained or removed for individual consideration? Commissioner Bauer.
Yeah, just a quick question, not that it really matters all that much, but on item 2, I was wondering what the correction was to the original minutes of the city commission meeting of November 20th.
Deputy City Manager? Or
There was a system glitch with the board docs compilation of the minutes where one of the items voted on, it said all members but one were not present for the vote, so the item was corrected that all members were in attendance and voted yes, except for one on that item.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Habusta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions for clarification. In item number 8, looking at the part-time seasonal employee wage schedule, quite frankly, it seems quite low, and I'm wondering what research the administration did in setting those.
City Manager.
Yeah, I'm gonna hand this one off to Deputy Manager Troyer.
So the only modification to this wage table, it was already established by the city commission in the budget cycle, effective July 1. Minimum wage is going up January 1st. So you'll know on the first S1, minimum wage went from 10.10, and January 1, it goes up to 10.33. So that's the adjustment on this wage schedule.
Thank you. In regards to item number 7, the reappointment to the Tax Assessment Board Review, I've been critical in the past about our process, and so I'm just wondering if you can explain to me, as we look at these names, there's no indication of experience on some of them in working within this tax setting. I'm wondering if you can explain to me if there's any training process or anything that goes into those board members.
City
Yeah.
Manager.
Oops, sorry. Yes, so the city assessor, she has to train her Board of Review members every year. I want to say it's like a good 2-3 day long process. They spend a considerable amount of time with the assessor, going over tax law, how the cases work, the entire process. So there's a considerable amount of training that goes into these individuals. They're not your typical board members. They are a paid board member. But there's a good deal of training that goes into it for them to be on these boards. And even if the person sits on it through the review process this year, they get the training. If they're on the board next year for it, they'll go through the same training. So there's kind of a process there to get them up to snuff on how to do all that stuff, so.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Just some follow-up in regards to that. Our code of conduct indicates that board members are, and committee members are recognized as officers of the city and under the same expectations of people such as ourselves as commissioners. Is that training part of that process as well? And then finally, alongside with that, the third part of my question would be simply this. Is there a number of boards that that members are, community members are allowed to serve on within the city? Is there a maximum number of that? Thank you.
So I guess a couple of things. There is a process where they're sworn in on the boards. I think for the most part, the department heads that staff the boards have an orientation process. I can't necessarily speak to what this one is because I have not sat through it. On a side note, with the RRC programs, there's a requirement to kind of recreate some of our orientation materials for all of our boards. So we're working through that right now. What was the second part of your question? I apologize.
No, thank you. Just wondering if there is a certain number of boards that a person is allowed to serve on. Is there a maximum number?
There is not a maximum number. At one point in time, I think the city tried to keep it to a minimum, but it had conflict between the members serving on one board to the next one. So for example, it's a conflict to have somebody sit on Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals, correct, Kelly? No, it's, what is it? You're embarrassed of me, Kelly. Okay, in short, there is a, we do have to maintain that there is no conflict in one person serving on another board. Usually if they don't kind of supersede one another or they don't kind of cross mingle, so to say, then it's not an issue. Again, with Tax Board of Review, it's kind of a special board. It's kind of established by state statute. So they operate kind of within their own parameters as established by state law. So there is no conflict with them sitting on other city boards. But like I said, to your original question, it's tough to get a lot of people to sit on these less than exciting kind of boards. So we do what we have to do to make sure we have enough people to fill these boards.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Anybody else? Commissioner Bauer.
So moved, we adopt tonight's consent agenda.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Any questions, comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is passed unanimously. E, special orders of business. City Manager Chapman. Bless you.
Up next for commission consideration is the follow-up item from the Local Officers Compensation Commission. The commission will recall that there was a recommendation that came down a couple meetings ago. The commission asked the Compensation Commission to reevaluate their recommendation, to which they did. Their new recommendation is to maintain the salaries and to have it be paid per attended regular city commission meeting. Per the way the Local Officers Compensation Commission is set up, the recommendation takes into effect without a vote, or if the commission chooses to reject the recommendation, it needs to be done so by a 2/3 majority vote to reject the recommendation.
All right, thank you, City Manager. So, the recommendation of the Local Officers Compensation Committee is to give 0 raise to the mayor and commission, and to pay per attended commission meeting. And as the city manager said, even if we have a motion and support, we need 5 votes in the negative to accept that. So any questions, comments before we go? Commissioner Rubenstein.
Just a question on how they got to the new recommendation. There was some pretty clear philosophical differences between myself and Commissioner Bauer, and I would have liked to see some, I guess, discussion around that. And there really wasn't any in the minutes.
I'll start
City
off.
manager.
I'll start off just a little bit, and then maybe deputy manager can kind of chime in a little bit on the meeting itself. So part of it is the way the Local Officers Compensation Commission is set up. Even though there was a direction or some conversation from the commission that went back to the board, the Local Officers Compensation Commission does operate with a bit of autonomy in terms of recommendation. That's kind of their purview as to the commission not necessarily establishing their own wages. So just kind of keep that in mind. But Robin, if you want to talk about the meeting a little bit, if there's any highlights.
Yep, so the committee reassembled. I will say, I'm just the liaison to the board. I assemble the board. I will say that there was one member in attendance at that meeting, so understood the commission's wishes. And there were other board members that watched the live stream or the rerun of the meeting, so they had an understanding of the commission's discussion. After they discussed the matter, their recommendation was to remove the 5% increase that was in line with staff, and recommended the by-meeting pay structure, with me as the staff liaison taking attendance, and when we meet 2 years from now, providing that to the board at that time.
Commissioner Bauer.
All I wanted to say was that I believe I was the one that asked first to have that sent back, and then we voted on that. And I said at that time that I trusted that the deputy city manager would relay what my opinion was at that time, and that is that we don't take a raise, and that we do and that we are paid per meeting and not paid that if we're not here working. And that's what this is. So thank you very much, and if you can tell the board thank you on my behalf, I would appreciate that.
All right, anybody else? Commissioner Bassos-Rath.
I do agree with the no raise. I don't think that we need to have a raise. My only thing is, I myself, and I'm sure other commissioners, do other things besides not just attend the meetings. So to me, like I know I have my personal cell phone number on the website, and I do take calls during the week. I talk to constituents. There's other things that we do just besides attend the meeting. So I know why this came about, particular reasons. Commissioners were not showing up to meetings for valid reasons. But I do think that sometimes, just like a job, you can't attend a meeting and you have a valid reasons and you go through the validity of letting, the proper channels know. So to me, I think to not get paid because you don't come to a meeting, maybe you get 3 sick days or 3 excused days or something out of the year, not just a black and white and then you're done, like you don't get paid. We're not making a ton of money here, but there are things that we do outside of attending a meeting that should be credited for. Just my 2 cents.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Busta.
Just want to echo sentiments by Commissioner Bassos-Rath. I think the pay we receive isn't based solely on just attending twice monthly meetings. Our expectations go beyond that. We have committees and constituents outside of our time in this room. We also should be doing our due diligence and preparing for each of these meetings. I'd rather us adopt the idea that us as commissioners, we aren't paid per meeting, but instead that we are docked. We shouldn't be docked for the time that we miss. This may seem nuanced, but I can assure you it isn't. The real message is that we aren't paid $170 per meeting, but rather than the meeting is culmination of much, much more work that is done outside of this chamber. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Gage.
So, certainly I was not on the commission when this was discussed 2, 3, 4 short weeks ago. I'm going to take the unpopular position in that, certainly I don't have to run for re-election. I know what goes into this work. I don't think that anybody here currently or anybody I've ever known to run for or serve on the city commission certainly does it for the money. But it's been 22 years since we've raised this, and so I thought I'd just take a brief moment to run us through a little short history. 22 years ago, Tony Baspas had not even become mayor yet. Harry Potter had just released his first movie. I was in middle school at 14 years old. We had just, as a society, gotten over the Y2K bug. We have had 4 presidents since then, 4 governors of Michigan. Cell phones were usually run by Nokia, and the most advanced game they had was Snake. Certainly, I think we can all agree that they've become somewhat more advanced since then. Social media hadn't been invented unless you count MSN or Yahoo Messenger, which I used as social media to help talk to my friends about trading Pokemon cards. So I say that in somewhat of a jest and to say that the job of city commissioner has gotten a lot more difficult since then. Social media, cell phones, people expect a lot more of our personal time than they used to in 2001. And so I'm taking the unpopular position, and I know that this isn't really part of it, that we should have taken the raise because a 2% raise over 22 years is, I think, very reasonable. I know that's controversial to say, and I think, I certainly understand the sentiment of not taking it. It sounds bad to, as a politician, vote to raise your own salary. But when we're talking $200 a year for, I would argue, 200% more input from the community on a daily basis, I think that is reasonable. So the other part I wanted to address is certainly I agree with Commissioner Habusta's kind of, I believe this is what he was saying, the semantics of not that we're getting paid $178 per meeting, but that we should have our pay docked $178, as it were, if we do miss a meeting. I know it's a matter of semantics, but I don't want people to assume that I'm only showing up to these meetings and serving this community for $178. So, those are my thoughts, but I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane.
Very nice. And pay is not on, as you said, pay is not on the request, so. Commissioner Bauer.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I do agree a lot with what Commissioner Bosmas Rath and Commissioner Habusta had to say in regards to there is a lot more to this job than just showing up. But as Commissioner Gage had mentioned, that we're being docked by not coming. I think that showing up for these meetings is the acid test and the bare minimum requirement for holding this position. Because, I mean, you can, if you're, say, liaison to the EDC, you can show up to the EDC meetings all you want, but when it comes to vote on whether or not we're gonna, buy a new fire truck or, lay more sewer and how we're gonna pay for that, et cetera, I mean, you're gonna have to be here for that. I would say that I kind of disagree, and the thing is, we can't really get into the specifics and the nuts and bolts here, that would be bad form. But, to Commissioner Bosmas Rath, it's not the last time that this happened that really makes me want to dock people for not being here. It's the time before that, if you know what I'm talking about. Because not everybody who misses meetings here has a valid reason for missing these meetings. And they should be docked. That's it.
All right, thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else? Commissioner Rubenstein.
So I guess kind of back to the last meeting, I can appreciate that sentiment, but along the lines of what Commissioner Bospas Rath said, I just think there's not just a lot that goes into this outside of these meetings, but and not that the pay really does much of anything, but I do think it is a way to incentivize people to want to run for this office. It's not something that everyone necessarily has the means or is able to do, and I think the pay is one small way to help push towards that. So, as part of that, I'm against any type of per diem system, and I'd actually make a motion to reject the recommendation.
Support.
It has been moved and supported to reject the recommendation. Any further comments or questions?
Can you just remind me which way to, like what a yes or a no means?
So the motion is to reject the recommendation. So if you vote yes, you're voting to reject the recommendation. If
The status quo as it is.
correct, if 5 of you vote in the affirmative or yes, the
Negative.
if
5 vote no.
no, it's 5 vote yes, because the motion is to reject it.
Correct.
So if you agree with rejecting it, you're going to vote yes on it. If 5 of you vote yes on it, then the recommendation is put down and it's status quo
It's the
in
other way around.
terms. No,
Because he's made a new motion.
The new motion was to reject it.
So we, yeah.
So if you wanted to be rejected, you would.
So if 5 vote no, then their recommendation goes forward.
no, 5,
No, the board's recommendation goes forward. It's 5, 2/3.
all right, just, so the motion on the floor,
Is to reject their recommendation.
the motion on the floor is to reject the board's recommendation. By saying yes, you are voting to reject their recommendation. So 5 yeses would reject their recommendation because we need a supermajority
Gotcha.
to reject it. So yes, if you want to reject it, no, if you don't want to reject it.
That's what I said.
Agree to disagree.
If they get 3 yeses, the rejection, no.
You need 5?
You need 5. Let's just
Okay.
shoot for 5. Whatever you
I
want to
didn't-
vote. I'm not telling you how to vote.
Okay,
The threshold is 5 yeses, reject it, and that will maintain status quo. If you have less than 5 yeses, then the recommendation is adopted.
So I didn't have a chance to make any comments. I agree with the Local Officers Compensation Commission. While I do agree that we do spend a lot of time outside of meetings representing our constituents, kind of agree with Commissioner Bauer. If we're not at the meeting, can't take a vote, then we really are not representing them in the business meetings, so. We are going to do a roll call vote on this one and clarify one more time for those of us, me, that don't.
Okay, so there's, the motion on the floor is to reject the recommendation. By voting yes to reject, by voting yes, you are saying you want to reject the recommendation. By saying no, you want to keep the recommendation. 5 yeses will put down the recommendation. Less than 5 will make it take effect. Right?
Everybody clear? Okay.
You ready for a roll call?
Yes, please. Roll call, please.
Mayor Gary,
No.
Commissioner Bauer,
No.
Commissioner Baspis Rath,
Yes.
Commissioner Gage,
No.
Commissioner Habusta,
Yes.
Commissioner Marble,
Yes.
Commissioner Rubenstein.
Yes.
How many you got?
4 yeses, 3 noes.
So
the
motion does
motion
not,
Motion
motion
dies.
fails.
The recommendation takes effect. Moving forward, per whatever implementation date, I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but moving forward, your pay will be based on attendance per meeting. And just as a side note, there'll be some payroll things that we'll have to figure out, but we'll figure it out.
So there's nothing in here about effective date, is it immediate?
It's 30 days from the action, so it'll take
Okay.
place in January, and the process in which I intend it to follow is I would do payroll on behalf of the commission for the pay cycle in which the meeting is held, and if the members of the commission are in attendance, they would be paid on that normal pay cycle, and if they're not, they would not receive a pay for that pay cycle.
All right, because we get paid in advance right now, correct? Okay. All right, good discussion, thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes,
Before we
Commissioner.
leave that, is there a way to ask the local officers compensation commission to come back with a second recommendation with the 2% increase?
I would
Doubt it.
say by motion, you may ask the local officers compensation committee to entertain another discussion, but keep in mind, the local officers compensation operates on their own prerogative, and they don't have to pick it up nor come back with a recommendation. So you can make a motion, have them take up another topic. It can go to them, they can open the meeting, they can close the meeting, and take no action, which would subsequently quash it.
I won't make the motion then.
Did you say you will not? Okay. All right, we'll move on into G, business items, number 1, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to authorize an extension to the current waste and recycling hauler contract that we have with GFL. As the commission may be aware, we received some word in October that there could be some changes to the current system, more specifically the tags that we currently use. GFL would like to get away from that. Staff put out a survey to try to get some input from the citizenry. That's going to close soon. We haven't had an opportunity to look at that yet. But really, the ask for the extension is to give staff and I some more time to make a recommendation and get some input from you as a board on what direction we want to do. There's a lot of different avenues we can take with waste and recycling. But the fact that they kind of came to us sometime in October, made mention that there could be a change to the system, and the current contract expiring at the beginning of February, there wasn't really a whole lot of time to actually properly do some analysis, bring some recommendations. At a certain point within the next couple of meetings here, we'll bring some ideas and the results of the survey to the commission to give us some direction. But the RFP that we will issue for a new contract will be based on the direction the commission gives us and how we want to move forward. So this is a one-year extension. There is an increase to the tags. I'll call it the main contract, had the base tag price, which increased based on the CPI from year to year. With this one being kind of an extension outside of the main contract, there is a little bit higher increase that's higher than the CPI. Red tags would go up $275, yellow tags $565, all other tags would go up to $295 or $1571, depending on what that one is for. So there is a slight increase. I'm going to say that it's budget neutral to us because we don't handle those revenues and expenses, but obviously it is a cost increase to the users of the waste and recycling system. So we look for a motion to approve a one-year contract as presented.
Thank you, City Manager. I see that we're requesting input from the community on a survey monkey. How will you be requesting our input? Is that tonight or at a future meeting?
Future meeting.
Okay.
So I'm thinking one of the January meetings or one of the February meetings.
Thank you. Commissioner Rubenstein?
Yeah, when it gets to that point, I guess a year from now, is there going to be a way to analyze, here's what the average user spends on tags versus, for example, if this was going to a tax-based system, how that would look, or is there?
So the hard part is we don't do any of the revenues or expenses, right? So we don't have any of that historical information. So we can make some assumptions based on how much people use. And I don't recall, does the survey ask that kind of question too?
One of the questions is how much they're spending a month for
Yeah.
garbage pickup.
So I
Under
mean,
10.
in a survey form, it'll be not 100%, but it'll be a representation. So we'll have some of that information, but because we don't handle the revenues and expenditures, we don't have a good idea on that. So in the analysis, if we do that kind of level of analysis, we'll make some assumptions, maybe a red tag or two a week, stuff like that. But we don't have really concrete information like that because it's all handled by GFL.
Okay, but on the other side, we'll be able to see theoretically what something that's not a tag system would look like cost-wise
Correct.
before voting. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Correct.
Commissioner Bauer?
What if we reject this tonight? I mean, does that mean they stop collecting garbage at a certain point, or?
So it wouldn't, I doubt they would stop collecting garbage, but we would be in a pinch where we'd have an operator without a contract with the city. If you reject it tonight, just because the simple fact that the main contract expires beginning of February, and that's only leaving us about a month to try to get something else in place. So there's not a lot of time. I don't foresee them kind of pulling the rug out from us, but it could be an issue with the contract provider not having a contract in place.
Because I mean, $275 per red tag, that may not seem like much, but to a person or a family who does 2 cans a week, you're talking like $300. I call that significant.
And our conversation with the GFL, I would say that if we bid it out, let's just say we kept everything status quo, the tag system, I would not foresee that price going down. I think kind of what GFL has indicated to us that the low base price that they had when they first took the contract with the addition of the CPI moving forward, what they've indicated is it doesn't really cover a whole lot of their expenses to provide it to the city.
My response to what you're saying is that because I am a GFL customer, aside from the tags, as a business, and I think that this increase is pretty much in line with the increases that I've seen on my own personal bills, I'd really have to do the math to verify that, and I haven't done the math. But, yeah, I hear what you're saying, you know. I don't agree with this, and I really hate like hell, especially right now, to, you know, to agree on this without a whole hell of a lot of debate when, you know, it's gonna when people are gonna be pretty much, you put a gun to their head for $5.50 a week for an entire year, you know. That's basically all I had to say.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Rubenstein.
Does it have to be a one-year extension? Can we do something shorter?
We're asking for a one-year extension to give us time to finish up the survey, come to the commission, get direction. What we've done was basically work backwards from what's the time it takes us to issue an RFP, what's the time to analyze that stuff, bring it to the commission. If there was a switch, let's say we got away with tags, we went to something else, GFL, they've indicated that it would probably take about a little bit less than a year. They would have to get new trucks, they would have to get a system out there. I would even say from my experience, let's just say another vendor comes forward in that time that it takes to transition from the current vendor to a new vendor does take some considerable amount of time. It's not a quick change. So, I mean, you can do, we recommended 1 year because it's enough time for us to do all of our work to get this done.
Answer your question. Commissioner Bauer.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say to Commissioner Rubenstein about that is that I do agree with what the city manager's saying. Back when the switch was made from waste management to Smith, we had a subcommittee on that, and I was on that subcommittee. And I would say that all the information that we had at that time, you can pretty much throw out the window. And so, I mean, if you're really gonna gather that information, study it, and then make a long-term plan, you're probably gonna need a year. I mean, could we do it in 9 months? Yeah, probably. But I mean, a year is probably, I mean, we couldn't do it significantly under a year, my opinion, if you're gonna do it right.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other commissioners? Commissioner Habushta.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo the question, I guess, and the concern by Commissioner Rubenstein. I think examining the waste pickup is important. I support that for the administration to get it changed and some new agreement in place. However, I'd much rather prefer we have a solution in place by the start of the fiscal year and make it a priority to do so within our budgets. This will become a necessity if we go with a city billing similar to water or sewer, et cetera. I don't want to see us a year down the road kicking the can and for another extension. I propose that we set a deadline for the agreement for 6 months, even if this means having a year-long contract, but within 6 months, we have the agreement ready to go, have it in place for the new fiscal year, regardless of whether or not we keep tag system or go with something else. Thank you.
So just to quick comment on that, so part of our process on working backwards, the 1 year extension that we requested puts us right in line with if it was a switch to, say, a fee on the tax bills, it would go on the winter tax bill to be collected for implementation moving forward. So the timeline we have right now in front of you would allow us to budget for and get it on the bills and move forward that way. So it is already kind of incorporated into it. 6 months, we could probably get something done in 6 months, but your concern about it being budgeted and put on that stuff, the time frame that we have right now, we've already built in enough time to put it on the winter tax rolls and move forward. So if you look at the 1 year extension, we're talking February 2024 to February 2025. We would have to have a decision, let's say it took a while, we would have to have at least a decision by December 2025 to be, or 2024, to be able to put it on a tax bill to start implementation and funding it at the conclusion of this 1 year extension, February 2025. So that time has already been baked in there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else have any questions or comments? Commissioner Gage.
I guess to Commissioner Bauer's point, I guess I'll ask the city administration would it be helpful to you if we put together some sort of a commission task force to help you with this, or a working group? Seems like you've already kind of got a group working on it. I don't want to get in your way necessarily and interject our insight if you've got a good process that's working, but would it be helpful to you if we had a working group?
If that's what the commission would like to do, that's what the commission would like to do. We do have a few of the staff members around this right now, deputy manager, myself, the finance department, the city assessors department, because if it does roll into the tax bills, there's some processes there. So there is a number of staff that is working on it. I prefer taking recommendations or getting direction from the commission as a whole versus a subcommittee to then bring it to the commission. But if the commission would like that, then
I don't want to put you on the spot. I want to be helpful. Is the only thing. So if it's not helpful, then don't worry about
You're
it.
not getting paid for the extra meeting. So,
Well, that's
do
garbage.
you want to make a motion on the recommended action?
So move that we approve the 1-year extended contract with GFL.
Support. Has been moved and supported. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
nay.
So it looks like motion passed 5-2. Thank you very much. G, business items number 2, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next is a request to purchase 2 new Ford Police Interceptors from Sioux Motors. Kind of long story short, there's 2 police interceptors sitting on Sioux Motors lot right now. We recently lost one of our interceptors to an accident where it was totaled out. We have another vehicle that is high mileage and should be replaced sooner rather than later. With Sioux Motors having 2 of the interceptors sitting on their lot right now, and the industry still having a hard time fulfilling the orders for the Ford Police Interceptors, we're making a recommendation of allowing staff to purchase the 2 police interceptors now. So we have 3 motions in front of you. Motion to waive the competitive bid process, motion to authorize the purchase, and motion to amend the capital equipment budget.
Thank you, City Manager. Certainly has been a difficult period to find those vehicles, and I think in your memo, you said even the larger companies can't find them, so pretty good opportunity for us when they have 2 of them at a local vendor. So any questions, comments? Commissioner Gage, you have a
So move that we waive the competitive bidding process.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we waive the competitive bid process. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Commissioner Gage, number 2.
Motion to purchase 2 police cars from Sioux Motors.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Number 2, it looks like. Number 3, I guess.
Oh, it is.
It's the same number. Number 3. Mine says 2.
Mine says 3.
Duh.
Yeah.
No, right here.
Oh, that too. Never mind. I thought we were moving on.
Commissioner Gage.
He's on the whole wrong thing anyways.
Oh, that's on the wrong page?
I had already moved forward.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there's one more motion.
I thought we were on to the next item. My
Yeah,
apologies.
sorry.
Motion to amend the capital equipment budget and stock and equipment fund with an increase of $119,700 with funding to come from the general fund.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion also passed unanimously. Thank you. Under G, business items, number 3.
Thank
City
you.
Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to approve a resolution to authorize an MDOT contract 23-5524 for for the construction of Salmon Runway and Ord Street as part of the Carbide Dock project. So we were awarded some funds from MDOT to construct Salmon Runway and Ord Street. This resolution authorizes the contract execution.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions, comments for the City Manager on this item or City Engineer? Commissioner Marble?
Motion to approve resolution authorizing the city manager to sign MDOT contract number 23-5524 for Salmon Runway and Ord Street as part of the Carbide Dock and Easterday Avenue Truck Route, project number 0740.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Moving on to G, business items, number 4, City Manager Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Up next for commission consideration is a request to execute a consent of easement holder for the properties that are currently known as Cannleton over by Ashman Bay. So this is a request from the property owners for Cannleton. As you're aware, the site is a Superfund right now. The property has been mitigated for a number of years. They've done their due diligence to satisfy EPA to delist it as a Superfund site, and we have to execute an easement agreement for some of the easements that we have on the property, saying that we will follow their processes. We won't move a lot of stuff out. So this is one of the last steps in getting the property delisted. This is an updated agreement. There was another one that was signed by the city a while ago. Spencer Nebel was still here. He was the one that executed it. So it's a revised, it's an updated agreement. Essentially, it's just saying that with our easements that run through the property for water sewer lines, that we're not going to do anything that will make the contamination worse or take it outside in the area and put it somewhere else. So, as I mentioned, it is a step to get the property delisted, and we would look for a motion to authorize the easement as presented.
Thanks, City Manager. Any questions or comments on this one? Commissioner Abusta, would you like to make the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Motion to execute the consent of easement holder as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any questions, comments?
Just last comment.
Sure, Commissioner Gase.
I just want to commend city staff and the property owner. I know that this is one of those issues that has been ongoing for forever. It's been a legislative priority for us when we attend MML meetings for a number of years. And it's just tremendous to see that we're finally making progress on getting rid of that and hopefully opening up that property for redevelopment. So congratulations to everybody on a job well done. This is a very long process, so big kudos. It's a big deal.
Thanks, Commissioner. Anybody else? So we had motion and support. Any questions, comments? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. H, City Manager announcements and updates. Anything in there?
I got you all the same Christmas gift as the mayor did. But just as a reminder, I will
Thank you.
be I will be out of the office next week, the 25th through the 29th, and the 1st of January. And just as a reminder, our commission meeting has been moved to Tuesday, January 2nd, due to the holiday on January 1st. So,
Thank you very much, City Manager. So item I is matters presented by the public. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to make any comments at this time? So no? Item J is matters presented by the City Commission. Commissioners. Quiet night. So on behalf of the City Commission, City Administration, certainly Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody in Sault Ste. Marie. And as the City Manager said, we will reconvene on Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Commissioner Bauer.
Your Honor, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Support.
Moved and supported to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.